Having a sharpening station that's always available, rather than having to dig it out of some corner and set it up, will make it so that I'm always working with a sharp chisel and plane instead of just making do. I don't have a lot of time to spend on this, so it's not going to be fine furniture with fancy Japanese joinery, at least not this time around. That doesn't mean that it can't be nice, but for every layer of refinement you put into a project, it takes more and more time, and that's just not necessary here. I also like to test out different ideas, and some of them just don't work out the way I hope that they would. So in that respect, this is really more of a prototype, although some of my temporary prototypes wind up working good enough that they become permanent prototypes. I found a tray with handles at the local thrift shop, and everything here is built around it. In that way, there's very little actual measuring here. As an aside here, I don't have a lot of workspace in my shop, and I often use my table saw for a workbench. A piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top makes a nicer place to work, protects the table saw top, and can be slid to the side and back easily when a cut is necessary, without having to move the project and tools off. Assembly is easy, but needs to be squared up so that the pan will fit properly. Rush jobs aren't always very well thought out, and they don't work out the way you want them to sometimes, but the pan slides in well, and the whole unit can even be carried around by the pan handles. I've got a buffing wheel set up, and that will allow me to get that little bit of extra edge on the blade. I've also got a flat tile that I use to sharpen my planer blades with, but that may be for another video. And finally, a box of accessories fits nicely underneath in a drawer, and maybe this will encourage me to organize the rest of that drawer. A piece of plywood over the top of the pan will help keep the sawdust out. Last year I made a wood finish by taking some beeswax from my beehives and mixing it with linseed oil. Putting some here will protect the wood from water, and anyway, why not? And after all that, I have to at least give it a try before I move on to other things. This chisel needs a bit of work on the 2000 grit stone and then some on the 8000 grit stone before finally finishing it off on the wheel. Trying it out afterwards, it was a definite improvement, and it can only get better. And as usual, the real question is, why didn't I do this sooner?